Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Paul. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Hello everyone, welcome to your latest Wolves Fancast match review episode. I'm your host Little Dan. On tonight's show I've got with me not the other two members of Right Said Fred, it's Stu and Matt, and Tom Calvert's joining me to discuss yesterday's important 3 points away to Ivan Juric's Southampton, which led to Wolves being a little more closer to safety than before the game. And as always, this episode is in association with the Sports Social Podcast Network, the Boston Coffee and Vending Company, and fcquiz.app. Stu, come to you first. Run me through your day out again to the South Coast. Where was the pub stop with the Hafferton? And we'll just shake our heads disappointingly to another travel company that let themselves down yesterday.
What's it? I don't know what this means. I'm out of the loop with this one.
You was when you brought it up.
Travel company. Oh yes. I've had very little sleep with watching Lando Norris win that Grand Prix. Spoilers this morning. My alarm was set at 3:20 for people who care. So I'm slightly wired, if nothing else. But yeah, we went to the very grand Eastleigh Working Men's Club. They had a very nice sign outside saying "Welcome to the Wolves," with a little dog drawing, which was kind of fun. So they had the old favourites: Theakston's Smooth Dark, Guinness, London Pride, Doom Bar, all your classics. So the gallon was achieved, of course, for the main thing. Got to the ground at 2:30. The new section, which is even more dirty and deprived than the old away end. Somehow, I don't know how that's possible, considering that's been their home end since the place opened. It just looks like a blue Leicester now, a red Leicester. It's just, that's what that place is. It's even more, with the screens being exactly the same in both grounds, it's just point and click with the mouse cursor on colour with the seats. It's just a joke. But yeah, it's a good day out in the end. So got back at 8:10. Not too bad.
Just in time to watch it on Match of the Day with a bit of food in your belly, and like you said, up early again for the F1, which I've got no time for, so we'll quickly move on from that. Tom, when you saw the team lineup at sort of 1:45 yesterday and Vitor Pereira had gone unchanged, what was your thoughts at the time?
I don't know. It's a bit of a, I don't know. I don't have an opinion really. It was half expected, but I was sort of hoping maybe he'd go a little bit braver. Maybe I think that's a safe choice. But you know, half expected, or not, I wouldn't say expected, but hope to see maybe one of the more dynamic forward players in it. Either maybe Guedes or even Hwang and Rodri potentially ahead of like a sort of a workhorse like Manetzi. But he went safe, and I suppose he was proven right, and the performance probably showed, you know, that it was it was that type of performance as well, really.
Yeah, I thought he could have gone a bit braver, especially with the news that sort of came out during and after the game that Jurgen Strand Larsen had broke his hand during the Everton game and was struggling heavily, casted up there. I could see you nodding, Matt. What was your sort of thoughts at 1:45 yesterday?
Yeah, it was surprising that it was the same team. I felt like against Everton, it was very much set up for a second half performance with your attacking players there. And I thought we probably didn't need to show Southampton that respect by having that safer team. To be honest, considering their position in the league and all of every pundit had this game down as they're going down. Can they save face? And then you put a team like that out against them. Maybe it's a little bit too safe, but Strand Larsen was the one for me, criticised by many for a bit of a lethargic performance against Everton. But what do we know? I mean, we'll go on to that, I'm sure. But yeah, a little safer team, but it's one of those where you think against a team so poor, you know they're going to try and grind out defensively, and it is a battle of attrition, and that squad at the start proved it, really.
Yeah, you look at the points tally that Southampton have picked up this year. Their awful goal difference. There was some absolute maniac. Maybe you could describe him as an idiot who was commenting in our comment section on Friday from the Wolves Fancast admin account, saying that he would have taken Fabio Silva over Jurgen Strand Larsen after penalty for Las Palmas. I don't know who that idiot was, but yeah, he's come under a lot of criticism this season. Probably a lot of it unwarranted. Matt Strand Larsen, but up to 10 goal involvements for the season there in his debut season, 8 goals, 2 assists. He was sort of struggling in the recent games away to Bournemouth and Everton, but before we delve into the match in a bit more detail, it was good to see him get his 2 goals and actually Wolves win a game with his goals yesterday.
Yeah, when you take the isolation of Cunha's amazing season out of it, to have those goal involvements in his first real, foray into the Premier League, then it's a great result. We're playing with such little dynamism as well in terms of opportunity given to him that I think the history books probably aren't as kind as the real story about his involvement in the game. He isn't given as many chances as he probably would like, but his return on those chances is phenomenal, all things considered.
Nearly. Yeah, definitely. I think he's deserved a lot more for his efforts this season, but I can't try and act like I've been a big fan of his. I've been one of these people that I haven't really given him the support that he probably needs in his debut season on the back of being coached the way that we were in the first half of the season. Get the ball to Cunha, plan and hope he does something on his own accord. I think that Strand Larsen has been wrongly supported tactically and with the intensity of getting the ball into areas that he can actually create chances for himself from. A lot of it is a lot of ball that he gets is back to goal, and we've all sort of come to the conclusion over recent weeks that he's not the stereotypical target man that we've seen in a number 9 position in recent years, and he hasn't really got that acceleration, has he, to get in behind defences in the way that we've sort of set up to attack this season. That it's not really helped him, has it? But hopefully in the summer we can retweak our build-up play. I think Vitor Pereira has mentioned that a couple of times in recent press conferences that when he first came in, it was all about improving defensively in open play and from set pieces, and I think that's coming to a head now. And from the summer, I think he'll be trying to make us a bit more better in the attacking third. But your thoughts on Strand Larsen recently, Tom, and the fact that he got the goals yesterday to get us over the line?
Yeah, I was delighted for him. It's amazing what can happen when you actually put a ball in the box. It's not rocket science. It's weird, yeah, because his stature, you do think he's the type of player, like, that sort of target man, but that's clearly not his game. I mean, granted, we had the excuse against Everton about his hand, which may have been warranted, but they were pinging balls at him, pretty hard from. I mean, Agbadou tries to, I don't know what he tries to take him out. I think from the back, he absolutely wails it at him, and he doesn't seem to be able to sort of bring it down and get people involved. So, but his shots to goals ratio, I think is sort of pretty remarkable, really. So he's definitely a goal scorer in number 9. I think an issue we've had is because we got so lucky with Jimenez in the first season. So people's perceptions of what they need for a 9 have sort of, I don't know, they're sort of warped a little bit, I think, because Jimenez was an all-round forward. He had absolutely everything. Strand Larsen's not like that. He doesn't seem to be like that at all. I think, yeah, he can improve. Of course, he can improve. But we were told when he was signed that he wasn't going to be this sort of all-action, dynamic number 9. He was sort of poacher type. Scored generally all types of goals. But you're not expecting him to beat a few men or run off the back of the last man. And obviously his hold-up play leaves a bit to be desired as well. But I think he'll improve, and I was delighted for him yesterday, really was, because he, as much as the faults he's had this season, he clearly gets it, and he seems to put in, you know, a shift in every game. He seems to really enjoy being in Wolverhampton. He's taken to the club well, so I've always got a bit of extra time for people like that, to be fair.
Yeah, I think when Vitor Pereira mentioned that Strand Larsen asked to play last week at home to Everton, even with the injury that he was carrying, it shows that he's up for the fight. And Maximus Wright has brought it up similar to what you did a moment ago. He's got that lucky left hand bandage now, similar to Raul Jimenez. And I'm not sure if I'm getting the actual stat right, but he's only 3 or 4 goals behind Jimenez's debut season for Wolves now. So there's plenty of games for him to reach that. And if he does sort of match that, you can't really knock him. And I was on WM after the game yesterday, wasn't it, Tom? You heard me, live, and I was all out apologetic to Strand Larsen. I thought he did really well with both goals that he took away yesterday and his overall work efforts to press their defence, which is they like to play out from the back, don't they, and build from there. And I thought his efforts were really encouraging yesterday. But Stu, it wasn't an eye-catching away performance in any aspect yesterday. We probably should have won the game more comfortably than what we did. But up until we scored the goal, it felt like a championship against a Premier League side in an FA Cup tie to me, where you could see their efforts and their desire to get a result. They were trying really hard. That they need to get the monkey off the back down there with this like bad run that they're on, but I don't see it coming now. I think we all talked about the inevitability of Wolves being that charitable football club when we go to these teams who are really struggling at the bottom of the table. But if you look at Vitor Pereira's record against the bottom half teams as he's coming, it's really good. But up until the goal, it wasn't. It was nervous, wasn't it?
I wouldn't say it's nervous. I think it was just controlled, and I think that kind of you go into that with the starting lineup being what it was against Everton, and rather than going all out and battering them, because you kind of expect them to, because they are so awful, you expect them to just throw everything at it early, just for the sake of it, because they've got nothing to lose, have they? So they might as well go for it and try and hit you cold. But being composed, being sensible, and not overcommitting to things, I thought it was a steady performance. And I think you're pretty spot on with that, like FA Cup tie with. Oh, we've seen it many times, like us against other teams in the Nuno days, where it was toying like cat with mice. That's all it was. Like, you knew something was going to click eventually, and it was just, let's not overexert ourselves. We know this team's not the fittest anyway, and you have got Strand Larsen with that stat that Tom mentioned there, which was mentioned by what was his name, Concept Scouting on Twitter, that 24 shots on target from 37 shots total, when Cunha's had 86. I mean, it's mental. When you've got a player like that, if you feed him, you're going to get something. And I think that was the game plan yesterday. We'll actually put balls into the box for him. We'll give him play to his strengths. And we've got someone that then you've got Minetti who can run around and do Minetti things, which obviously we'll come on to. And you've got Bellegarde putting decent passes and crosses in. So we didn't need to go all out because Southampton are so shit that it was absolutely fine for me.
Yeah, I was happy with him. I don't know if many of you remember, we had Peter Velland on from our sponsors, FC Quiz.app, at the start of the season, and he predicted that Strand Larsen would finish the season with 15 goals. He's not far away from it, but you talk about the stats there, 24 shots on target, 9 goals. It's a good ratio, that is. And if, like you said, if we can improve as a squad and get more balls into the box for him, hopefully next season he can push on. And, you know, obviously Cunha won't be here in the summer. It's up to these players like Strand Larsen next season to carry the mantle and keep us up in the Premier League. That's if Jeff Shee doesn't sell him, mock Shee out and all that. But yeah, let's talk about that goal that put us ahead. Bit of build-up play involving trying to do some spectacular push away, but got nowhere near it. Your thoughts on the header itself, Matt, and the movement from our Norwegian number 9?
I mean, I'd like to say he peels away from his man, but the defender peels away from the attacker. It's really awful defending. It really is.
Carl Walker-Peters did not look your natural third centre-back like Mac Doherty, because two out-and-out right-backs like Doherty and Carl Walker-Peters did not look comfortably in that third centre-back position for Saints yesterday.
He didn't. And, Ramsdale tries to save it, like when FIFA is trying to screw you over and the DDA kicks in and it allows like your opposition to score. Like he dives so late, and he will really feel like he should have got more on it. I mean, it's a beautifully placed header, and that's the right place, right time expectation that you have of a stereotypical beanpole target man. He's where he needs to be, and that cross in, that's that bit of quality that we've missed, and that's that bit of quality that Sarabia should be giving us all the time that doesn't. And then a player like Bellegarde is the man who is starting to, has been for a number of games now, reaping the rewards of being someone with that little bit of quality. So overall, a really lovely work goal and kind of set the tone, really. Wolves were, they weren't wasteful. You know what I mean? They did the basics well and put away the chances that we had. And that goal was kind of a microcosm of that, really.
Like I said, it felt like a championship side in an FA Cup tie, and that first goal in the tie was going to be crucial yesterday. Thankfully, we found it, but just refresh your mind from all that London pride for a minute, Stu. Your sort of feelings and view from the away end as this sort.
I mean, that ball from Bellegarde is superb, isn't it? I mean, it's exactly in the corridor uncertainty to bring you back. It is what we've been crying out for, and what in his own club podcast begged for. Put crosses into the box for him, play it to feet. Just because he is so massive, it doesn't mean he can naturally hold people off him. I think we kind of stereotype him a little bit like that, a bit like Crouch used to be. Like Peter Crouch wasn't that brilliant at holding up the ball because of the size of his legs, but his first touch was excellent. So it's one of them. I think he gets an unfair rub of the green because people expect him to be like Heskey, like bouncing people off him. But you give him service like that, and I think it was just relief more than anything else, because he had started to get to that kind of stage where he hadn't scored for a while. We all know what happens when you have strikers who go through barren patches and then they start snatching at things and he doesn't quite come off, and then you get in your own head. And we saw it. I mentioned it a few weeks ago at Bournemouth. As soon as Cunha was off the pitch for his silliness, that Strand Larsen, even with only a minute there, he came into his own and he was like, "Yeah, okay, I am the leader now." And he strolled after that goal. You could see the confidence flowing through him, and it's been lacking for obvious reasons because he doesn't get any service ever. But when he does, look what happens. Like Tom said, it's football simple. We overcomplicate it all the time. And having a manager who plays the simple things well, maybe he does get close to that 15 goal marker now, because what is it? How many games left? 9 games left. Again, and we got Ipswich and Leicester in there. Who knows? That's 4 goals easily.
6 in 9 games would be a hell of a good going between now and the end of the season. But who say he can't do it? Tom, your thoughts on the goal that put us 1-0 up yesterday?
I just want to give a shout out to Bellegarde, really, because he's had a lot of critics, rightly or wrongly. But he was awful under O'Neill, I think, and that was partly due to him, partly because he was being played out of position. But Vitor's really done a number on him. I think genuinely he's been one of our best players since Pereira took over. I mean, assist-wise, he had the Everton one, he had 2 yesterday. I seem to remember he maybe got the one for Gomez's goal, possibly against Fulham, I think, by putting a cross in. So he's racking up the assists now, and he's it looks like the sort of player that we signed originally. Manager's giving him confidence, playing him in the position that suits him. And I think actually he's a good player to knock the ball to keep hold of it. He does seem to have a little knack. He's got a low centre of gravity. He just seems to hold on to it well, and we can play off him quite well, because usually it's you playing off Cunha or no one else. Especially when the ball gets in that left-hand channel, I think Totti tends to look up, and a lot often it comes straight back if there isn't a Cunha or what's been a Bellegarde recently. So shout out to him. I think it was we were pretty poor before that. I think it's the only sort of move we ended up putting together. Before that, I was getting a little bit jittery at one point, but yeah, like Stu says, it probably was one of those where, you know, we could have gone up a gear should we needed to, and because Southampton is so abject, we didn't have to get out of second gear really, and that was just like a little quality moment and taking advantage of some piss poor defending.
I can't disagree with that. I wanted to give Bellegarde some props myself. I had another back-to-back honking weekend in Fantasy Premier League after going with Ryan Ait-Nouri as my captain, but I did bring in Bellegarde for this game week alone, and the 2 assists yesterday, which he picked up, were well deserved to him. Since that Villarreal game, I think that's the standout performance for me from Bellegarde. I think since that moment, he's been one of the players that's really took his chance under Vitor Pereira, and one of these players that has risen the game since sort of Cunha's been suspended, and even in the game at Bournemouth, I think Bellegarde's one of those players, even when he's not having his better game, he's never afraid to be direct with the ball and carry the ball when things aren't going to plan. And I feel like the way that we've been performing in recent months, there's been a lot of safety in a lot of games where we've needed that player to have a bit more courage. If the pass doesn't come off, it doesn't come off, but you got to keep trying instead of just playing the safe. We've had to be pragmatic since Vitor Pereira's come in to get us the points to give us this 9-point advantage that we've got now. But for me, in recent games, we've needed that bit of encouragement and that bit of desire to keep pushing forward instead of going back, recycling possession. I think it's one of the things that aggravated me the most during that Everton game, is that Everton, we never really tested them. They never really had to get out of first gear defensively because they were happy for us to play in front of them. And Bellegarde has been the one player recently which I think warranted getting him the February Player of the Month, because he has been that good since that period in time. But what was your sort of thoughts at half time, Stu, going in 1-0? Did you think it would be a comfortable second half, or did you still have that sort of air of inevitability?
No, I think that the atmosphere at half time was pretty jubilant as well. Like, you normally get people banging on the corrugated wall as you get in stadiums like that. But it was like, okay, there's the one. Where's the second one coming from? It was never a case of we're just going to sit back on this and let them bring the game to us, because they can't, because they're awful, as we keep saying. So that I was perfectly happy with things were. I thought, well, you don't really need to change anything. Just wait it out. They're going to have to go do something at some point and just hit them on the break. Because, I mean, if Aguado could pass, he wouldn't be here, would he? I think that was the worst thing in that first half, that his passing was. But it is what it is. He's a man mountain of a defender, passing secondary. But even with that, we didn't get put into much danger because they weren't a threat. So it was one of the first games in a long time I had no issue whatsoever. I was supremely confident. And then as soon as the teams come back out, and then you hear them start singing "You Don't Know What You're Doing" for one of his subs, you think, well, they're done already. Their own fans have turned on them, and the manager at half time, and they're only one down. This place is a shambles. So I was supremely confident, and you kind of heard that in the away end as well, because people were just relaxed. It's all over now anyway. It's just end of the season parade.
Yeah, you mentioned it in the WhatsApp group, and by the time that message had come through, with like the Southampton's chance, you don't know what you do. I think it was Manuel Fernandez who was sort of playing in their false 9 position, who got replaced by Paul Onuachu, who's just a gargantuan of a centre forward, but he does not look like a footballer in any aspect. But as you said, as I said earlier, Wolves are charitable, and he managed to get a goal later on in the game. But by the time that message come through, Stu, where he said Southampton fans are chanting, you don't know what you're doing, Wolves
finish, and it was the result of increased confidence, because a player who is clutching for a goal at any opportunity probably tries to get into a better position, probably tries to find the perfect opportunity to shoot, as opposed to letting his quality do the talking. And he takes the shot, lovely finish, pinpoint accuracy, and deserved really for, again, another shot on target towards that really impressive tally of goals versus shots on target. Really pleased for him. Obviously, it starts with the defensive header, and how it's refreshing to see that attack come so quickly, getting the ball up the pitch so quickly, and it not being dilly-dallying it around 45, 30 yards from goal. It's nice to just get it up there. I'm not saying let's route one it, but it was nice just to see a bit of direct play. It's so funny as well because with the first half, I was there thinking, oh, this is what it feels like to be the team who didn't play particularly well. We're probably the second best team in the first half, but get the goal, then score another one and shell shock the opposition. Yeah, that's us. That's been us all season, where we've put the huff and the puff in, and then we've ultimately been let down. But it was nice to be on the other side of that. 2 goals. It was game over theoretically at that point. And Strand Larsen again with another goal, just to give him that confidence. Brilliant to see.
I mean, you said it there. The goals they scored, a bullet header in the first half, and I would like to know what the odds would have been for Strand Larsen to score from outside the box yesterday pre-match. That definitely wasn't one of the bets that we predicted on the preview show. We did predict Wolves to win 2-1 at, I think it was 15-2. So if any of you got on that, fair play to you. All the other bets that I suggested were absolutely terrible, which one was Pablo Sarabia to assist in both halves and Ryan Aït-Nouri to assist in both halves. So if you wasted a pen on that, I can only apologise. I'll leave the money on the side next time you come around my house. How happy were you with that second goal, Stu, and just the all-round finish from the player and the cushion that we then had?
Well, it's exactly what I was saying earlier, that he's not what you think he is, and someone that size putting a deft finish into the bottom corner rather than just putting power through it. Like you said, he's already gone with a bullet header. He's already done his number 9 stuff, but to finish like Prime Raoul that used to do, it's just confidence, isn't it? If he hadn't got that goal in the first half, he wouldn't take that shot on. Absolutely guaranteed. He would have cut back inside, or it would have been recycled, like Matt said. It's just what confidence do to you. And just to see Ramsdale's little annoyance and his little thump of the ground. I mean, he didn't get as much of abuse as he should have got yesterday. That was one of the worst parts about the day, because he should have been on it all day long. But it was almost like they were too sad for him because he's gone there, ruined his career again. Another big R, like you I presume it was you who tweeted that out earlier, on his CV. But yeah, it was dreamland, and that's where singing Larsen again started off, which I really didn't expect that to happen, to be honest. I mean, I know that he's not been flavour of the month, but to go from that to then being, we don't need Cunha anyway, which we've all talked about. And there was a comment earlier about how much more of a team we look without him being there and it being all about him all the time. So for him to be singing Larsen again, and the whole away end singing it as well, and you could just see him like growing again. Like, yeah, I mean, not in that way, but he might have been. Who knows? But the confidence was flowing through him, and it kind of showed like how he holds himself, and he's first choice now. So great, and it looked like we were going to get another 2 or 3, but then it's Wolves.
Yeah, it was frustrating. I'll talk about the back end of the game in a moment once I've heard Tom's thoughts on that second finish from Strand Larsen, because, like I said, I don't know what the odds would have been for him to score outside the box, but a clinical finish, as we've all mentioned and enjoyed seeing Ramsdale suffer after the sort of the banter that he provided our way in his that one Arsenal game at Molyneux, which Townley's mentioned. It's just great to see it hit the back of the net and give us that cushion, Tom.
Yeah, just you could relax a little bit at that point. I mean, we didn't expect Southampton to probably score 1, but yeah, just for them to score 2 would have been highly unlikely, I think, even by our standards. So yeah, it was just great, just to see the relief, and I think you could see that some of the players as well. And I know you said you're going to touch on the back end of the game afterwards. It was almost like they were a little bit too relaxed. So it relaxed maybe a little bit too much until that goal went in from Southampton, just to sort of focus their minds a little bit there. But yeah, it was nothing. It was pretty, just basic stuff, wasn't it? Yeah, your centre half wins a big header, couple of touches from your midfielders into your centre forward. He puts it in the back of the net from the edge of the box. So yeah, it's just sort of bread and butter football, and we're all for that.
Maximus Wright saying that JSL chant is shocking, but I'll take it. As a striker, if your fan base is singing a chant which basically alludes to you constantly scoring, it's got to give you confidence, hasn't it? The away fans did sound in good voice yesterday, Stu. Obviously, you mentioned the Andre chant, which rang around the stands for a bit. The Cranberry Zombie version. João Gomes had a bit of a quiet game yesterday, but he had probably one of the biggest chances in the second half to make it 3-0 after I think it was it Bellegarde or Nori had cut it back to him.
Yeah, he's got. There's something about him that he just freezes when he gets in that position. We've seen it, and they mentioned it. Danny Murphy mentioned it on Match of the Day as well. Like he's got in that position so many times, and he just pulls his shot wide when he could just, even if he just laces through it. I mean, you're not like talking about missed chances from 8 yards out kind of thing, but he does kind of pull that chance more than once a month, and it's bizarre because he should be getting like 6-7 goals a season. The positions he gets himself into, and he did have a quiet game yesterday, and it doesn't really matter though when you've got Andre being as superb as he was again. Like one of them, if one of them's excellent, the other one can just be fine. One sits, one goes, and he was. And I know it's a bit of a thing of celebrating tackles, but if that's your job and that's what you enjoy, then celebrate all you want.
I can't disagree. I thought Andre was brilliant again yesterday. If he wants to celebrate winning tackles, yeah, go ahead, lad. I'm happy with everything that he's providing us in a wall shoot recently. He's really justified getting in that Brazil squad for me, and hopefully he can get himself on the score sheet soon because he probably deserves it for the efforts that he's put in. But I think João Gomes probably tried to be a bit too clever with that effort. I think the shot needs to go across the goal. I think he was trying to get in that near pass, which wasn't really much room. Was the Matt? But what was your thoughts on the chances that we had to make it 3-0? Matt, obviously I mentioned the João Gomes one there, but the one that really aggravated me the most, especially with my mention of Ryan Aït-Nouri being my fancy Premier League captain, was Gonçalo Guedes Wolves. I think it was 4-on-2. Ryan Aït-Nouri's through on the left, and he picks the pass for Sarabia, who not only is in an offside position but fluffs his lines.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know how much I put into like the idea of footballers not being as sharp when they're not getting the minutes in at this level. Whether it's a case of not having the reps in, he's not. Neither Sarabia or Guedes have really had the minutes probably to be as sharp as you would need them to be in those positions, I think, at least. It's a difficult one because we definitely had the capacity to raise a gear in that game, and we never really needed to until that's the Southampton goal. And it was frustrating because if we'd have drawn that game, it would have been an absolute travesty, and I don't think it would have put any more pressure on than the win. I think league wise, it is done now at this point. But the two players mentioned there, I'm sure as we get towards the end of the season, we'll be discussing at length. Was it a success, these two players at Wolves as well? The Gomez chance, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that's the difference between an out-and-out striker and an all-round player, trying to get it at that near post than having the foresight to just pick the shot. But ultimately, I think we were comfortable, and the missed chances, as frustrating as they were, they didn't ultimately amount to too much. So can't be too critical.
No, definitely. The extra cushion of a 3-0 lead would have, I think it would have really opened the floodgates for us if it had gone to that, because I think Southampton would have just completely imploded, and I think the fans was already on their backs at that particular moment. Southampton did have a few chances before they did pull one back. Maximus Wright mentioned it just that Andre did make a bit of a last-ditch block from Tyler Diblin, who was a bit of a nuisance, especially in the back end of the game yesterday. I think Tyler Diblin also had a really good chance from a header from a Southampton corner, but I think if we would have went 3-0, it would have just been 4 or 5, I think. But as I mentioned earlier, Wolves being the charitable side that we are, we did manage to let Southampton back into the game. Stu, and it was Tyler Diblin who caused a bit of nuisance on the right, cutting on his left, shot ricochets off the post, and that big Paul Onuachu bulleting it away, and Southampton back in the game. And although it was what felt like a bit of nerves, they never really tested Jose Sarr to really earn a point in the end. The huffed and puff, like I said earlier, like a championship side in an FA Cup tie, but comfortably ran out the winners. But how was it for you inside the ground at that moment?
Yeah, I mean, you expect it to be our classic old Wolves. We've seen this story many times before, but it really wasn't at all. And it was like, well, it's a shot that's hit the post and then hit the Kevin Francis regen. It just hit him and it's gone in. And I know they can do that again and it happened again, but what are the chances of that actually happening to you twice? They didn't really do anything other than that. And Dibley is probably Dwayne Dibley is their only quality that they've got in that side who could probably stay in the league. As you look at the rest of them and you think, none of you here have done any of your chances any good whatsoever this season. And I mean, fair play to Southampton, there was still 30,000 there yesterday, which I don't know why. What else they're going to be doing? And they're clearly already paid for the tickets up front. But to still have that when you're almost 3 points, you need 3 points in 9 games to not be the worst team in history. And could you bank against them getting 3 points in 9 games? Probably not. And at least that Derby side were just playoff promotions fodder, and they never expected it.
Who did they beat in the playoff final against, Stu?
I can't remember.
They beat the Albion, Stu. Come on,
yeah.
play the game.
Oh, come on. Oh, see, you've jumped ahead now, haven't you? Well, I was going to say, where was Ramsdale that day? But you've ruined it all now, haven't you?
He was probably in the away end at Wembley, crying his eyes out as I think it wasn't Darren Carter, was he? He played for Blues, didn't he? Who was that ginger midfielder Derby had? I can't remember who scored the winner for Derby that day, but that was it was good to see. Obviously, Albion beat us in the semi-final, that playoffs that year, I think it was, and yeah, good to see. But yeah, that Derby side who finished off with the least amount of Premier League points beat Albion in a playoff final. So I don't know what that says about that Albion side. That supposedly was so good with Diamante Kamara and all them worldies that they had.
But at least they had the excuse they were promoted too quickly. They didn't spend. A lot of these players in that Southampton joke were Premier League players 2 years ago that they kept together. And you think, this is just a shambles from top to bottom. This is what happens when you coach by a moron for the vast majority of the season, who the fans didn't like last season either. And then someone managed to get himself on Monday Night Football on last week. And I didn't even watch it because I can't stand him. I can't stand his bollocks that he talks. He's just nonsense all the time.
You just care about Lucy Pinder. Just say it as it is, Stu.
Well, I mean,
Matt's nodding. We all know, Stu. It's all about Lucy Pinder. I
mean, what she sees in him, I'll never know. But you look at like where this Zurich guy's come from. I mean, he looks half dead as it is. I mean, why is he there? He's just suffering every week, and they've not got any better. They're not as calamitous anymore, but they're just shit. So there was never any danger of them getting anything out of that game. It was almost a consolation with a bit of time left. That's all that goal was, and that's what it felt like. It wasn't like, oh, it's Wolves, we're going to be on edge. Not for me, anyway. And you can normally feel that kind of thing. Everyone goes quiet, but we didn't go quiet.
Yeah, I think Matt mentioned it earlier. It did feel like throughout that game yesterday, we could have gone through gears if we really needed to, and it felt similar to the Bristol City FA Cup tie, where the scoreline probably should have been more than what it was on the day, but Southampton did huff and puff. And Maximus Royce asked, lads, would you take any of Southampton's players in the summer? I think Tyler Dibley is probably going to get a bit of a mention. We've been pushing for Kyle Walker-Peters a lot on this channel in recent months, and based on the 2 games this season, I've gone completely against that. Me and Matt mentioned it at the start of the show. He's defending for Strand Larsen's first goal. Even if he's a free agent, I don't really think he's a player we should be looking at. But I'll come to you first, Matt. Any Southampton players take your fancy?
No, like you said. I mean, I was going to ask you when he was speaking, are they in double dip territory? But I don't think they probably are. So I don't think many will want to poach any of their players. To be perfectly honest, I think there are a lot more candidates from relegated teams this season that we would like to pick up. So, not really. It's a bit of a sorry state of affairs for Southampton, and it is. What's the Simpsons mean? Stop is already dead. It's the kindness of what. It's nice to see that the kindness of Wolverhampton Wanderers didn't abuse them too much throughout the game. To be honest.
Yeah, I think based on that, we've got 9 games left. I think if everyone, apart from Southampton fans, voted and said, well, anyone that's playing Southampton for the rest of the season must get a default 1-0 win, I think most people would just accept that now, because it really, it's a merciless vote, I think. But Tom, anyone from Southampton for you?
Maybe Fernandez. Ridiculously, the guy got subbed off. He's half decent, I think. Yeah, he was all right at the Molineux. I think that's a position that we really need to look at. I think is I'm pretty content with the defence now, which is remarkable to say considering where we were before January. Especially if Mascara comes back to anything like we know he can play, and he slots in on the right. I think that's quite a formidable back three. That, and you've got the 2 Brazilian wonders in the middle. As long as we keep hold of them, but I think the forward line needs like big restructure. So obviously you got Larsen, but then you need obviously Kuhner's gone. We're very lacking, I think, off the bench. I think Sarabia and Guedes, I think they've run their course now. I think we've given them too many chances for one. We need something a lot. I mean, Pereira's made reference to it, hasn't he? We need a lot more dynamism and someone who can actually, beat a man with a bit of pace. So yeah, I think Fernandez possibly, but I don't think he'd be a starter for us. But yeah, it's slim pickings. Let's face it.
Yeah. Shame to see. You don't want to see anyone struggle as bad as Southampton done, apart from maybe West Brom. But Stu, there has been a few people mentioning. I've had a few people message me on my Twitter today after I took the mick out of Ramsdale for being primed for his 3rd relegation. A couple of Albion fans saying that I'm obsessed, and Wolves did try to sign Aaron Ramsdale in the summer, and it's what was the word that he said? A bitterness pill that I must have swallowed that Wolves didn't sign Ramsdale. Just give me some more thoughts on Ramsdale, Stu.
He's a cunt. Never. He's one of the most hateful players I'm going to experience for about 20 odd years, and he's just everything about him. He's not as good as people think he is. If you want to pass around from the back, put a midfielder in goal. I've said this before. That's where Edison started, and he's not as good as Edison. So what is he doing? I mean, that Larsen's first goal, he probably should have saved that anyway. But again, he's gone through his hands. Like, you look at the England game at Molineux, and he was a disgrace that day. He was awful, atrocious, terrible. And we've had some bad goalkeepers in our time, and I just don't get it. And I think if he wasn't English and he didn't come through where he did, and the whole Arsenal thing happened, no one would care. Like, no one would be bothered with him. But the whole thing about it, and he's bought this on himself. I mean, fair play to him. If Albion fans love him, then great. He can end up there in the Championship one day.
It just shows where they am as a club, where one of their biggest highlights in the last 3 or 4 seasons is Aaron Ramsdale boinging at Molineux after an Arsenal win.
Yeah. And we've got that stat now that we've won more Premier League games than they have in 84 less games now, I think it is. He's just a fool. And if he didn't say anything about the Albion stuff, I mean, he's one thing. Like when Steve Bruce turned us down because of the backlash, and we ended up with Terry Connor, that was a bad move. But all the backlash against Ramsdale was a good thing because it made him see sense. It would never have worked here anyway. And I know people don't like Saar, who I thought had a great game again yesterday. Did nothing wrong, no foolishness. Perfect, solid 7 out of 10.
That's low hanging fruit, isn't it, Stu?
Yeah, but no one mentions him, though, do they? When he doesn't do anything.
He didn't make an outstandingly bad error. What a great game he had.
Did he kick the ball out of play once yesterday?
Yeah, but like I said, how many times did Aguado lose possession? So like goalkeepers are judged differently to everyone else on the pitch. It's bizarre. But Ramsdale can't save shots. That's our biggest problem with him. He can kick the ball around, but he can't save shots.
We used to call Claudio Bravo the hologram, and Aaron Ramsdale is pushing him for that mantle now.
I just don't understand the whole thing about him. I've never got it once. And you've got like people who will keep banging on about this until he gets a move from Wigan. Sam Tickle is a great goalkeeper. England under 21, he's got a bit of everything, and he's not a fool. Ramsdale is.
I've really fallen out of love with the England international team for a good amount of years now, and I don't like taking pleasure in seeing England get hammered, especially at Molineux. But the fact that Aaron Ramsdale was the goalkeeper that night gave me a bit of warmth inside, because he sort of ruined his chances of ever being the England's number one, didn't it, that night? And
he was booed as well.
Yeah, it was great to hear. Maximus Roy, I'm sure, is going to be given Jose Sarr his man of the match yesterday, like he usually does in the comment section. But who was your man of the match over the 2-1 win over Southampton, Matt?
It'd be easy to give it to Strand Larsen, but I think it's Bellegarde for me is putting in the performances that he deserves to be given the flowers that, especially when you consider where he was at the start of the season. And I think he gets, even by default, an apology from an apology man of the match, if you will, because without his contributions, I think he's giving. Put it this way, I think Strand Larsen should be putting him a 20 quid in his hand after the game, because
Strand Larsen's goal bonus should be getting like a bit of a subsidy towards Bellegarde yesterday for those 2 assists, especially the first one, because it was a good header, wasn't it? But it was Beckham-esque. He put it on a plate for him.
Mm-hmm.
Your man of the match yesterday, Tom?
I'll give Bellegarde a shout, but I've got to give it to the match winner. Let's face it, he won us the game. We might have won anyway, but his goals won us the game, and he deserves it, because he's like you say, he did have an awful game. He was awful against Everton. He's had a lot of critics, and I think he really deserved it yesterday. So I'm going to give it to him.
Stu?
Andre, easy. I think all good shouts. Strand Larsen probably his best game for a while, and obviously because of the goals. But I think Andre and that Cranberry song, not just because of that, but it kind of did sum it up that he is everywhere, and we've got him being everywhere, and Joe Gomez doing the same. But yesterday, Andre stood out yet again. Take away his life-saving tackles and his blocks and everything, but he just didn't put a foot wrong. He's way too good for this team, and we might get next season out of him, but then he'll be gone. Because you're talking about a £60 million player there, easy.
Taylor's asked you, how does the Andre song go? I'll leave you to it.
I'm not singing the Cranberries. Not on a Sunday.
I tried, Townley. I tried.
Go and listen to Zombie Boy and put He's Everywhere, Andre. There you go. That's as far as you're getting.
I'm gonna download that clip. I'm just gonna fast forward it like 2.5 speeds, and then we'll see what comes of it. Based on your opinions on man of the match, I think it would be unjust not to give it Strand Larsen yesterday. I'd like to give it to Bellegarde. Matt said it, but I think it's, goals are the most important thing in football, aren't they? And his 2 goals yesterday could be the difference in Wolves being a Premier League side next season. And we've still got to play Ipswich and Leicester. So there's still chance for this Wolves side to fuck it up monumentally, and I still haven't. I'm still not overly confident. I'm confident at the moment. And I'm going to tell you why in a few moments. But if you didn't know, before the show went live, Leicester did lose at home 3-0 to Man United. It shows 2 on the screen. That's how late I was. We've updated, and how late Man United's 3rd goal from Bruno Fernandes was. But Wolves are now 9 points clear with a 16 better goal difference from Ipswich in 18th place. I did say a moment ago that I'm not overly confident yet that Wolves are safe. But for me now, I think we should be looking at Everton and West Ham. We've got West Ham at home coming up next after the international break. If we win that, we'd be 5 points behind West Ham, who are in 16th. And I feel like we've won 2 out of the last 5 there's a chance for Wolves to finish as high as 16th or hopefully 15th. I've even put Tottenham in at 14th, who on the same amount of points as Everton and West Ham on 34. But Matt, are we safe?
Yeah, we are. I would listen earlier in the week saying it's 7 points before this game with goal difference, and we're not losing 2 games more than the opposition, or they're not winning 2 games more on us. It was done before the game, and I think this was just, it's 10 points with goal difference now. It's just not doable. This meme material, maybe, if I'm wrong, but it's done, isn't it? Let's be honest. I think everybody thinks it as well. And looking up the table is nice. I know that it maybe about the last 4, 5, 6 match games, you think to yourself, we're in this horrible purgatory with nothing to look up to. But all of a sudden, there is something to play for in terms of teams above us, which is nice. But it's done and dusted now. Let's be honest.
Done and dusted for you, Tom.
I mean, if you look at that graphic there for the people who aren't watching on YouTube, so out of the last 15 games, the bottom 3 sides have got 1 point between them. 15 games, 1 point. It's going to take something a bit special now, surely. I mean, it looks toxic at all those clubs now. So I think you just, even if you look beyond the results, and it's hard to look beyond the results because they've been absolutely abject. The crowd turned at Leicester ages ago. Obviously, Southampton are dead and buried, and I think Ipswich are starting to turn a little bit now. They can't defend for shit, and they've spent so much money. They spent 150 million, and they've got about 1 or 2 good players. That's it. So, I think it's Ipswich got Man City next potentially as well, I think. And then we've got West Ham. So, if people want to be extra safe, I mean, you could hopefully turn at least, another point there, maybe 3. So I think it's pretty much there. It'll take a 2021, 22 type fuck up from here, I think. But also, I think what would Vitor take over, and we were 5 points adrift of safety, and now we're 9, effectively 10 points clear. So he's swung 14 points since when he took over, which is about 2 months. Just by getting us, just because he's not a moron, basically. He's just got us organised at the back. Agbadou's obviously made a big difference, and we look like a team now that can grind out results when we need to. So you start from the back and then you move forward from there. And I think we should have enough now, surely. 9, effectively 10. And they don't look like they're getting any points. I don't think Leicester are going to score again this season, let alone get another point.
That was a really damaging stat that someone mentioned earlier. That's Leicester have lost the last 7 consecutive games at home without scoring a goal now. It's a shambles. Stop laughing, Stu, because
how can you be that bad though? I
said to you, didn't I, off air, lads, that Jeff Shee has tried his hardest to get this club relegated this season with the lack of investment and everything, but the football gods have given us a get out of jail free cards with these free showers of shit that are below us. But look at the next game week of fixtures, game week 30 of 38. Ipswich travel away to Bournemouth, who lost to Brentford yesterday, and Leicester travel away to Man City. And then we've got West Ham at home, who drew to Everton yesterday. So it's another chance for us to get even further away from that relegation zone. And I think Danny Pelletti said it a moment ago, win the next 2 and it'll all be over before Cunha returns the dream. Happy going into the international break, Stu, with that 9-point safety?
Yeah, you got to be, haven't you? I mean, a sort of thing as well, that you take the last 20 games, so that includes some with Teabag in charge, we'd be 14th best in the form table. And that's and a lot.
That's nearly dust your passport off territory. That is
exactly. So, and that's with a team that was completely unmotivated, unfit, destroyed by nonsense. Didn't train all week and all that kind of thing. So, like Tom said, well, the job that Pereira's done is pretty special when you look at what I mean. They then through contributed to it as well, obviously, but to turn it around like he has is some going. But that is the thing, though. You beat West Ham, and then you're only 5 points behind them with 10 games left. 8 games left, sorry. So there is other things to aim at now if that happens, which is even talking about that, considering how far away we were, is a monumental achievement in itself.
Dreaming is for free, Stu.
Exactly, dreaming is for free. Knowing that, we know a Kilman bullet header in an offside position in front of the keeper. It's got it written in the stars. But yeah, you've got to be, everything's all bright and sunny and things are not as depressing and sad anymore. And then you look at next season and you look at the teams that come up and they'll be in the same state again. And that it's a perpetual cycle of who can just break that grip and survive the 1 year and then build on that. But you look at that graphic there. Is it Bournemouth have dropped like a stone? Their form is out the window now. So that gives them some hope, but at the same time they've got something to play for. So
Bournemouth have got their eyes on the FA Cup now, haven't they?
But we've seen this before. If you drop off in the league, concentrate on the cup, then you're just asking for trouble because you're not motivated and you're not in form. So they could, all three of them could not get. They might get 1 or 2 points between them for the rest of the season, and it'd be completely feasible.
There was a Southampton fan on Twitter that had done some form of like supercomputer simulation for the rest of the season, and it took him over 64,000 attempts for Southampton to avoid relegation. I mean, that's commitment. That is to even persist on doing that when you just Southampton are dead and buried. I think I was concerned about Ipswich, and I was saying it for ages. It all depends on who scored the most goals out of Matthias Cunha and Liam Delap, and I don't think Liam Delap's scored since that moment, and Cunha's been suspended for the last 2 games. So that Ipswich game will be key. I think if we can just get a draw there, I think that's pretty much us over the line. Because until it's mathematically safe, I ain't gloating too much. But you talked about how well Vitor Pereira's done since he came in. Just looking at that goal tally for a few seconds, we scored 40 goals this season, conceded 58. I want to just draw your attention to like 3 or 4 games I'm going to mention now. 6-2 at home to Chelsea, 5-3 away to Brentford. We've conceded 5 goals to Everton over 2 games. That's nearly like the 18 to what our minus goal difference is. It just shows how badly things were under Gary O'Neill and how we could have avoided such a disastrous season if the club had pulled the trigger a bit earlier on Gary O'Neill, Tom. But just give some plaudits to Vitor for a few minutes for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, just going quickly, O'Neill. I mean, I cannot believe he wasn't sacked after Everton. I mean, that's an unbelievable decision. That, and if he'd have been sacked before the Ipswich game, it'd be all over now, and we'd be on the beach because there's no way we'd have lost that. I mean, we nearly got a point at that Ipswich game playing like a bag of shit with a shit manager, so they'd have been over then already. But yeah, like I say, I don't think it's been, like we've said, it's not been rocket science really. I'm not underplaying what he's done because it was a shower of shit that he walked into. But he's got them organised. We were conceding about a set piece a game before he came. So if nothing else, just that has made a big difference. Seems to galvanise the group. Fans are back on side. He speaks really well. I really enjoy his press conferences. He's got a little bit. He seems to have quite a good rapport with the press, which seems to help. He's always up for it. He's serious and he talks quite deep into the tactics, but then he'll have a little joke with people. So I think he's quite I don't know. He seems like quite a good character. I mean, what did he say after the game yesterday? He said he was going home for a pint or something. He simply wants to go for and that's going to get people from the Black Country nicely on side as well. So yeah, like I say, I don't think he's done anything too drastic other than just getting the absolute just getting the basics right. But I'll be very interested to see how he goes from here and with the pre-season behind him and maybe some more of his own players, different players in forward areas. Yeah, I think the future's brighter than it definitely was for sure.
Yeah, he's come in. He's done similar to what Lopetegui did. He's made us pragmatic. He's got us the points. I think we probably played a lot better football than what Lopetegui had us playing with. Probably a lot better of a squad Lopetegui had at his disposal. But yeah, Vitor Pereira's slogan is, as mentioned by Maximus Wright, first the points, then the points. But he also did say in his press conference, which Nathan Judah quoted Vitor Pereira saying, "I am a simple man. I want to win, go home, go to the pub and drink a pint with the fans." A pint of Guinness is good. That may or may not be an AI-generated picture in your bottom right hand there of him drinking a pint of Guinness. He said he likes to eat something too. Sometimes it's a pie, something simple like that. It's not unusual for a manager, I believe, to go out drinking with the fans. But for me, I'm new to the Premier League and I like doing this. A pie and a pint. It's a thumbs up from Vita. Just give Vita some flowers, Matt.
Yeah, you know what I really like about Vita is it's football communism, and what I mean by that is it's equality over quality in this squad. It's everybody is playing to a level. We don't need like the heroes that like superstar players. We just need to be playing well. Everybody just has their role, does it well, and the results come. Football doesn't have to be this complex super equation that everybody wants it to be. And he's got this side playing to their strengths. That's what you need. That's what I really enjoy about what the way that we've played. And don't get me wrong, there'll be the passion police, the same people, this usual suspects who looking at Gomez for celebrating, and then we're talking about the way that we play, and it will never be good enough. There'll always be those people, but can anybody criticize the job he's done with the tools he's been given? He's been dealt a 7-2 and he's ended up with a royal flush. Do you know what I mean? It's just, you can't ask for any more in the position that we were in. And yes, next season we might get to the point where we'd like to play a bit more expansive football with better quality players. But for what he's been given and what we've come as a result, that swing that Tom mentioned he's done the brief and more. So very, very grateful for what he's achieved so far with the club.
Yeah, totally agree. It's becoming quite a regular saying, not just on this channel, but in football, social media in general now, is that players and coaches need to be given their flowers. I implore someone to go down to Compton in the coming weeks and give either a player or Vitor Pereira a bouquet of flowers for their recent efforts. Tony's mentioned, and this is right, because I remember looking at a stat with like the points per game or goals per game. We were on course to ship over 100 goals at one point under Gary O'Neill, and we've only conceded 58 now. Vita's done an outstanding job, Stu. Obviously, he has been given some players in the January window, which I'm sure Gary O'Neill will point to as not being supported by the club when he needed to in the summer, when he was calling out for another centre-half on top of Mosquera and whatever, and probably another striker. But just how good a job has Vita done to date?
Well, Gary O'Neill left Andre on the bench and played Bellegarde as an alternate winger. The man was a fool. He was a fool at Coventry onwards. And for people to still be backing him was bizarre. He should have gone in the summer. Said that on here. But that commented before he was finally sacked that they tried everything and it was all the players' fault. And it just sums the bloke up. I mean, we're not going to see Bomb again because he's not worth it. He's just an idiot. He's just this. If I never saw him again, I'll be happy. And he did his Monday Night Football things, and we've gone over the Gary O'Neill stuff before ad nauseum. And it's just baffling how he managed to talk himself into such a good game, and yet as soon as he had a pre-season himself, after all the stuff or good work he'd done throughout the season, he ripped it all up to play this mental way of playing, which we constantly were awful at. No one could do properly, conceding goals for fun, and he couldn't coach. So what was the point? And I still don't get. I know the whole thing about he planned to play a certain way and he didn't get the players in. Well, why were you doing a certain way before you got the players in the first place? Like, no one does that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And a lot of the things that he did and said and put in place didn't make any sense. He was out of his depth. He won't get a Premier League job again. And now we've got a good, proper manager in he's Black Country adjacent in his values, the way he plays, no pissing about. It is meat and potatoes football, and it's what we love. And like you saw in that away end yesterday, and it does help when you are in a corner like that, where you can get more of a noise than being spread out behind an end or on the side. But there is a togetherness again, and he has kind of fostered that. And it's not all for the cameras. It's not for just a quote here and there. It's like you can see that he believes it, and he's a perfect fit for this place. We don't want tacticos. We don't need analysis on everything. You can go to other certain places. I'm not going to mention your name before you say it. But we're simple people. We like simple things. Vitor Pereira football is numbers. Playing by numbers, you win games. Cross into the boxes, long balls. This is what we want.
Not sure it's necessarily what we want. But as long
It
as
works.
We needed a way of a style of play this 2025 to get us over the line. I think we're very close to it now, and I think that's down to Vitor and his staff, and obviously players. Like Cunha's got to be given some flowers for the goals and whatever he's brought. But it ain't just the Cunha. It ain't Cunha FC. A lot of these players have stepped up recently, and that's why we find ourselves now 9 points clear of the relegation zone. And it could have been a really, really toxic season. I was talking about double-dip relegations myself at one point because of how toxic it was around the club, and a lot of it was down to this man, Jez Mokshi, who you can find at our wolvesfancast.tmall.com store, along with many other brilliant T-shirts that I've designed in my spare time for. Which is, I could have been utilising my life a bit better. Zips. Yeah. Thanks for joining myself, Matt, Tom, and Stu on the Wolves Fancast Match Review show tonight. We're hoping to bring you a show the middle of next week as it's an international break, but I'll see whether I've got enough spare time to actually orchestrate something. But we're 9 points clear. It's a good place to be. West Ham at home after the international break, and then let's try and push on for that 16th place. It's what we've dreamt about since October time, since that 5-3 defeat away to Brentford. 16th never seemed imaginable. Like Newcastle 16. Fans dreaming about winning the Carabao Cup today. That 16th place is within our reach if we can beat West Ham. And then that season ticket price renewal in the summer will be all worth it. Don't believe everything that you hear, Jeff. And I was told also by a reliable source yesterday that Jeff Shee likes his chant. This is how egomaniac the guy is, that because he's got a chant with his name in, he actually likes the chant. So I'm still a bit in an area on whether I want to continue with this chant because he needs to feel the disdain that we've got for him as a chairman, because we can't allow this club to keep circling the relegation drain any further. And Vitor's done a brilliant job. Hopefully, with the reconnection with George Mendes in the summer, we'll be able to bring in some quality players, and maybe we can push for 15th place next season, lads. Good night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe. Check in on your mates. And as always, up the Wolves.
Thank you.